Good evening. Welcome to Washington. I'm Brett Baer. Winning the election may have been the easy part. President-elect Donald Trump and his Vice President-elect Mike Pence, who is also now his transition manager, went over more names today as they seek to staff some of the crucial jobs in their upcoming administration. Tonight, we know one person who is not interested, and we're hearing names both familiar and new as the delicate process continues. Chief Political Correspondent Carl Cameron is in New York tonight with the very latest. Good evening, Carl.
Hi, Brett, and that wasn't all that happened today. The president-elect Donald Trump got his first full-blown presidential daily briefing. This is identical to what presidents get. It's not the shorter version that Trump and Hillary Clinton both got during the campaign.
Vice President-elect Mike Pence, who replaced New Jersey Governor Chris Christie as head of the transition, returned to Trump Tower to start filling in the roster.
Mr. Vice President?
One of Pence's first duties as transition leader is to sign a key White House document allowing the Obama administration to share information with the Trump transition. It requires Pence's signature now that Christie's gone. Former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani has emerged as a favorite for Secretary of State, brushing off being the Attorney General, former campaign manager Kellyanne Conway.
We know he'd be an incredible Secretary of State. We know that he would represent this country very well around the world as he went to implement Donald Trump's vision.
Trump's campaign finance chairman, Steve Mnuchin, is considered a top pick for Treasury Secretary.
We're working on the economic plan and the transition, making sure we get the biggest tax bill passed, biggest tax changes since Reagan.
Trump's also considering campaign economic advisor Wilbur Ross, a billionaire investor, for Secretary of Commerce. A draft document of Trump's potential trade reform plans over the first 200 days says, quote, the Trump administration will reverse decades of conciliatory trade policy. New trade agreements will be negotiated that provide for the interests of U.S. workers and companies first. Dr. Ben Carson, the first former primary rival to endorse Trump, was angling for Secretary of Health and Human Services and separately being considered for Secretary of Education. Carson has now told the campaign he believes he'd be more helpful to the movement outside the administration. Newt Gingrich is trying to create a new post for himself, a sort of long-term national White House vision coordinator.
You have to have an ability to look beyond the immediate fight and figure out how does that fit the long-term goals, and that's what I really want to focus on.
Incoming White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus is defending soon-to-be senior counselor to the president, Steve Bannon, whose support for alt-right politics has drawn criticism from the left.
The Steve Bannon I know is a guy that is really on the same page with a lot of the things, almost everything that I agree with as far as advising President-elect Trump. I mean, he was a force for good on the campaign. I haven't seen any of these things that people are crying out about.
Alabama Senator Jeff Sessions, the first senator to endorse Trump and an ardent border security hawk, is a front-runner for defense secretary but is also being considered as attorney general. Trump's staffers, not the candidate, inquired informally if it might be possible for his children to get security clearances. It was a request for information, not an action. Separately, having called the Electoral College a disaster in 2012, the president-elect changed his tune on Twitter overnight. The Electoral College is actually genius in that it brings all states, including smaller ones, into play. Campaigning is much different.
And tomorrow, Vice President-elect Mike Pence visits Washington to meet with congressional leaders and finalize all the necessary paperwork so that the Obama administration and his transition team can share information and really kick the transition off aggressively, Brett.
And Carl, another former primary rival turned supporter also turned up at Trump Tower today.
Texas Senator Ted Cruz made an appearance at Trump Tower, and it did turn heads. They were very bitter primary rivals. Of course, Cruz has reached out and congratulated the president already, but this was a face-to-face meeting and an opportunity, Cruz said, to, on behalf of the 27 million Texans he represents, the senator looks forward to assisting the Trump administration. Don't they all, Brett?
Raise some eyebrows. We'll see what that all means. Carl, thank you.